Stewart Edward Hart was a Canadian amateur and professional wrestler, wrestling booker, promoter, coach, trainer, football player, and sailor. He is best known for founding and handling Stampede Wrestling, a professional wrestling promotion based in Calgary, Alberta, teaching many individuals at its associated wrestling school The Dungeon and establishing a professional wrestling dynasty consisting of his relatives and close trainees. As the patriarch of the Hart wrestling family, Hart is the ancestor of many wrestlers, most notably being the father of Bret and Owen Hart as well as the grandfather of Natalia Neidhart, Teddy Hart, and David Hart Smith. Hart was born to a poor Saskatchewan family but became a successful amateur wrestler during the 1930s and early 1940s, holding many national championships, as well as engaging in many other sports. He began wrestling for show in 1943 with the Royal Canadian Navy while serving in World War II as he could not go to the 1940 Summer Olympics due to the war. After leaving the service he traveled to America and debuted professionally for the New York Wrestling Territory in 1946. Hart was considered very handsome and a good in-ring performer, focusing on a submission-like and technical style of wrestling. But despite this and being popular in general he was not given a major spotlight by the writers, and soon after marrying Helen Smith, whom he met in New York City, he created his own promotion in Edmonton, Alberta, which would be known as Stampede Wrestling and took over the surrounding wrestling territory which covered most of Western Canada and the U.S. state of Montana. The territory would go on to become known as the Stampede Territory thenceforth. In 1949, Stu and Helen moved to Great Falls, Montana. Hart's promotion featured a large variety of outside stars from the wrestling industry as well as homegrown talent for whom he booked storylines. Beginning from the 1950s, Hart helped train a large number of people for his company and gained a reputation as one of the best teachers in the wrestling business. In October 1951, Stu and Helen moved to Calgary, Alberta, into what would become the famous Hart House. Hart remained an active full-time wrestler until the 1960s when he entered semi-in-ring retirement. Thereafter he would focus mostly on promoting, booking, and teaching, as well as raising his 12 children with Helen while still appearing in the ring sporadically until the 1980s. Throughout his career, Hart almost exclusively portrayed a heroic character, a so-called babyface role, and only held one professional title, the NWA Northwest Tag Team Championship. After selling his territory to Titan Sports, Inc. in 1984, Hart would make several appearances on WWF television and pay-per-view with his wife, often involved in storylines surrounding his sons Bret and Owen and several of his sons-in-law who were signed to the company. He continued to teach wrestling at his home in Calgary until the 1990s when he suffered a severe leg injury and had to stop engaging excessively with students, leaving most of the work for his sons Bruce and Keith. He died at age 88 in October 2003 after suffering from multiple medical issues. Hart is regarded by many, including major wrestling historian and sports journalist Dave Meltzer, as one of the most influential and important figures in professional wrestling history and an icon of the art form. His greatest contribution to the art was as a promoter and trainer. Along with Bret and Owen, Hart's trainees included future world champions Fritz von Erich, superstar Billy Graham, Chris Jericho, Edge, Christian, Mark Henry, Chris Benoit, and Jushin Thunder Liger. Hart was a member of the inaugural Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame class in 1996 and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2010 by his son Bret. Hart was also well known for his involvement in over 30 charities, for which he was named a member of the Order of Canada, the second highest honor for merit which can be given in Canada and the highest civilian honor. Plot: Stuart Long, a foul-mouthed amateur boxer from Helena, Montana, has a troubled relationship with his mother and alcoholic father. His brother Stephen died at age 6, leading to a rift in the family and causing his parents to be hostile towards religion. He moves to Southern California to try to make it as an actor, and gets a job in a grocery store, hoping to get connected in the entertainment industry. He is arrested for a DUI and attempts to steal his father's truck to make it to an audition. While working in the store, he meets a woman named Carmen, whom he tracks to a local Catholic parish, where she is a volunteer Sunday school teacher. Carmen resists his advances, telling him she would not even consider dating him unless he gets baptized. Stu agrees and begins RCIA at the parish, where he befriends fellow parishioners Ham and Jacob, but is looked down upon by the latter. Both Ham and Jacob are headed for the seminary. After Stu is baptized in the parish, he and Carmen begin dating and he later meets her parents. After Stu lands an acting role on an infomercial, he faces discouragement and returns to the bar one night where a mysterious man gives him some advice and tells him not to drive home. Stu ignores the advice and drives drunk on a motorcycle, crashing into a car and being thrown off the motorcycle and run over by another car. Severely injured, he drifts in and out of consciousness and has a vision of the Blessed Mother who tells him that he cannot die in vain. After Stu is transported to the hospital by EMTs, Stu makes a miraculous recovery despite the doctor's grim prognosis. His father visits and re-establishes contact, though their relationship is still very strained. Carmen visits Stu as he is recovering at home and the two have sex, which she had previously said she would not do before marriage, leading to intense regret for both of them. Stu confesses the sin and begins to transform himself to be the man that Mary asked him to be. Stu feels a calling towards priesthood, and after prayer and discernment decides to pursue the seminary. When Stu tells Carmen of his plan, she tries to convince him not to do it, as do his mother and father, to no avail. Stu applies to the seminary and is rejected at first, but visits in person to appeal to the rector and is accepted. By this point, Ham and Jacob are also in the seminary. Ham is a reliable friend, but Jacob is something of a rival. One day while playing basketball with fellow seminarians, Stu falls and is unable to get up on his own. He is diagnosed with inclusion body myositis, a rare muscular disease similar to Lou Gehrig's disease which has no cure and typically does not strike young people like him, and the prognosis is grim. Stu is angry with God but comes to understand his suffering as a gift from God which draws him closer to Christ's suffering, and with much difficulty continues in the seminary. Carmen, now engaged to another man, visits him at the seminary and supports his vocation. After some time passes, he begins losing use of his hands. The rector tells Stu that he cannot be ordained, citing his inability to celebrate the sacraments of the Catholic Church. Stu moves back to Montana with his parents, who care for him as his muscles continue to decay, his weight increases, and he loses the ability to live independently. His father, meanwhile, attends Alcoholics Anonymous, where he admits in group therapy that he feels partly responsible for his son's condition by his neglect and absence. The parishioners from Stu and Carmen's church in California petition the Diocese of Helena to ordain Stu, to which the bishop agrees, and Stu is ordained in Montana with Carmen, Ham, and his parents in attendance. Father Stu begins ministry and quickly develops relationships with people in Montana. He is later confined to a skilled nursing facility, where he continues his ministry and people flock to see him every day. Jacob visits him there during confession and admits that he never felt capable of becoming a priest and only pursued it to please his father. Father Stu assures him that there are other ways to serve God and he does not need to feel pressured to do something he isn't called to do. Afterwards, Jacob thanks Father Stu and wishes him goodbye, sensing it will be the last time. Father Stu dies at the age of 50. The closing credits show real images of Stu from his childhood and turbulent young adulthood to his time in the seminary and as a priest. Cast: Mark Wahlberg as Father Stewart Stu Long. Jackie Weaver as Kathleen Long, Stu's mother. Mel Gibson as William Bill Long, Stu's estranged father. Teresa Ruiz as Carmen. Aaron Moten as Ham. Cody Fern as Jacob. Carlos Leal as Father Garcia. Malcolm McDowell as Monsignor Kelly. Jack Keller as Curtis. Nico Nicotera as Barfly. Anat Mahendru as Virgin Mary. Production. The film was first publicly announced in 2016, when Wahlberg revealed that he was working on a biopic about Long with screenwriter David O. Russell. Wahlberg first heard about Long's story while out to dinner with two priests. Wahlberg put millions and millions of dollars of his own money into the project, mostly due to the shoot going over schedule and the rights to music. Ross wrote the script, then signed on as director in her directorial debut. Long's parents, Bill and Kathleen, were involved with the production, as were numerous bishops, priests, and laymen who knew Father Stu. Members of the Long family said the portrayal of Stu's father was overly dramatized, as he always provided for the family and was a loving father. Bill Long still supported the film, saying, "I don't think it matters how I was portrayed, the film is about Father Stu. He wants people to come away from the movie with the message to have faith, hang in there, endure." The film was shot in Los Angeles, California in just 30 days in May 2021. In late September 2021, some scenes were shot in and around Helena, Montana, as well as Anaconda, Montana, Butte, Montana and Phillipsburg, Montana. Wahlberg intentionally gained 30 pounds in 6 weeks to portray Long, consuming up to 7,000 calories a day. The film contains unusually strong language for a faith-based film, and Wahlberg said he was initially prevented from shooting a scene in a church because it contained vulgar language. However, Wahlberg defended the use of language as a way of emphasizing the contrast between his pre- and post-conversion lifestyles, and the film was commended by many Catholic leaders, including Bishop George Leo Thomas, who ordained Father Stu, Bishop Austin Vetter, the contemporary Bishop of Helena, and Bishop Robert Barron. Release. Wahlberg attended an advance screening of the film at Carroll College in Helena, from which Father Stu graduated and where he later served as a campus minister. The film had its world premiere at the Cinemark Theaters in Helena, Montana, on April 5, 2022. The film was released in theaters on Wednesday, April 13, 2022, the week before Easter Sunday. It was originally set to be released on Friday, April 15, 2022. The film was added to Netflix in the United States on September 16, 2022 as part of Sony's Pay One window exclusivity deal. A PG-13 version of the film titled Father Stu, Reborn will be released to theaters on December 9, 2022. Reception.